Hi, I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Kaylee, and this is
Shoot the Vows. And today we're talking about engagement survival season.
Yeah, that's what everybody needs right now.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
From November to February.
Yeah, so if you can't see outside right now, but it's snowing a lot.
Beautiful snow.
Despite the t-shirts.
We are in a warm studio, so that does help a little bit.
Yeah. So I remember when I got engaged, my husband put the ring on my finger, and then I said, "Okay, now what?
Where do we go from here?"
Yeah, what do we do now? And I think that happens with a lot of couples. So they come to lovely podcasts like ours, lovely YouTube channels, Google the good Chat GPT, and they say, "What do I do now?" And what I would recommend starting with is, first off, just literally enjoy the fact that you're engaged. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, taking time to, be settle in and, oh my God, this is my fiance. Get used to saying that for a minute.
Yeah,
and
make
then
your announcement, tell all your friends and family.
Wait a couple months, let everything kind of relax from the excitement of all of it, and then really dive in head first and find your venue. Make sure you have a date picked out. A biggest one is finances. Like, we want to make sure that brides are sitting down and looking, okay, so this is the budget that I'm willing to spend on the wedding. Here's the little extra just in case we need it. But knowing their cap and knowing where that boundary lies is very important.
Yeah. So I think that the budget is the number one thing, because you can look at venues, but it's all going to look like crazy numbers. I mean, because they are crazy numbers these days.
That's facts.
But you need to be looking at venues that are within your budget. And there's nothing more crushing than falling in absolute love with a venue and it being like twice as much as what you can afford.
Yeah, and you're like, well,
yeah,
that was that idea.
And it's not just, so yes, creating a budget, like, okay, this is our finances. This is what we're willing to spend on a wedding. And I never, ever advocate for going into debt for a wedding day. It's one day. Go
It's
into
a party
debt for
at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Like,
get a house, like maybe your honeymoon, maybe possibly, but not
depending
the
on where
wedding
you're
day.
going. Like, I could see if you're like going to Europe or Italy, or you're, leaving the States. Totally understand like splurging a little bit and doing something special for that honeymoon. But I totally agree that you shouldn't be going into hundreds and thousands of dollars of debt just for a big party.
Yeah, even 50,000.
That's still a lot.
Any thousands. A $50,000 loan for a wedding is just crazy. So I know everyone's kind of somewhere different with it, but where you guys are at financially, discuss that. And then there's what you have financially, and then there's what's realistic financially. So I always recommend looking and doing a quick Google search or using AI or, something like that. But specifically for your area, because we're here in upstate New York, it's going to be totally differently priced than in New York City or Houston, Texas.
Yeah,
or
anywhere.
the middle of Iowa.
Right. So depending on if you're going, barn venue, or if you're going high style, elegant, like those are two very different venues and two very different price points.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just what it is. If you're looking for a barn venue, that they've become very, very popular now, but those are typically a little bit more darker. They're typically not as bright, light, and airy as some brides think. And they don't think about that when hiring their photographer and or looking at the venue.
Yeah.
They're just kind of looking at what the venue has to offer. They're just kind of looking at what the venue has to offer and kind of going off of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And as soon as you have a date down, then you can start looking at your venues and you can decide which one is for me, which one is for us. Look at, who you are as a couple. If you guys are really laid back, you're outdoorsy type, then a barn is probably going to be your jam.
Yeah.
And they're so great because everything's under one roof, and they're typically pretty reasonably priced because barns are pretty reasonably,
and they usually have a big outdoor space
Yeah.
that is utilized too, whether it be for the reception, whether it be for just the ceremony. Like most of the barn venues that we've been to and we've worked at does have an outside space to utilize also, which I think is really nice. Like I know the one couple we did, they were runners and they had the barn venue, and that whole just outside portion of the barn, the whole barn was gorgeous, but that really like encapsulated them because they'd go and run a lot and they were always outside. So like you said, the outdoorsy and the barn, like they do kind of go hand in hand.
And also you need to consider what season it is.
Definitely.
So, one thing to keep in mind is that off season is a little bit cheaper. So, if you're getting married in maybe November to March, April, it might be a little bit cheaper than peak season, like October or June are usually my two busiest months. Although for some reason next year it's turning out to be August, which is they are
Wow.
brave couples.
Yeah. Wow.
I got married in August and it was hot. But also if you're getting married in the middle of the summer, does your venue have AC? Because you're
That's a
gonna
big one.
you're gonna be really grateful that you picked one with AC
Definitely,
in the
especially in the middle of summer.
Mhm.
And that's even saying for upstate New York. Like even down south, you're definitely gonna want something with AC down there. So
Yeah.
like I think the venue choice is a big number one on your list after you kind of figure out what date you want to look for.
Yeah.
Then you go for your venue and then you go for your photographer because your venue is going to base your photographer. Like I said, if you want light, bright, and airy, might not want to go with the barn. Not saying we can't execute that and do that because we have and we do and we will. But um photographers is definitely hmm, I don't know. Lost it there.
You were doing so good.
I was. That's just no.
No. We are coming back from, New York City with whatever contagious diseases they have there, and we've been in bed for the past week, so
All those
this
dirty,
is
just everything.
this is what you get. You get what you get.
It's we're a little sickly, but we're alive.
We're here. We are here.
That's facts. There was a lot of people in New York City for that proposal. I will tell you what.
Well, they got engaged. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just got back from a proposal,
Yeah. So, there's a lot of people getting engaged right now,
and it will be like that until February.
and it's exciting. It's so exciting. And also, like, right before Christmas, I think people are going home for the holidays and stuff, and they wanna, like,
Wanna
have something to tell everyone and announce, and if they
and
ain't
I
pregnant, then
surprise.
Yeah.
I do know like there's a lot of people who when they are like at this stage where they're like they don't know like females when they don't know and the men are planning. I know sometimes like a lot of women want their family there.
Mm,
And I think holidays are just one of the easiest to invite, and make it happen with everybody there. You're going to be less suspicious because it's Christmas. Of course, Aunt Joe's going to be there. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. When you start planning your wedding, it's really important to have a realistic timeline of when you're gonna plan for everything, but more importantly, when you're gonna pay for everything.
oh, definitely.
So when we got married, I really wanted to wait an extra year, because it was the middle of COVID. We got married in 2021, and, my husband really wanted to just get married in 2021, and I was like, "Alright, whatever you say."
Okay,
Um,
honey.
but we started planning in January. We got engaged in April, and our wedding was in August.
Oh, wow.
So you would have thought we were pregnant. We thought it was
It seems like
you would have thought it was a shotgun wedding.
it.
But, and the biggest regrets that I have other than the whole COVID aspect, which I hope nobody in the future ever has to go through, because, he has a lot of family in Canada, and they couldn't be there because the
The
borders
travel,
yeah, the
yep.
borders were not open yet, so they literally were not able to come over, but, financially, it was so hard to pay for everything in 8 months. Our parents helped a little bit, but we paid for mostly everything, and it was a very budget wedding, you
Well,
know?
and at that time, everything was going up in price. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what we're talking about. COVID made everything spike in price.
Yeah, so that was really tricky, and I would definitely want at least a year, if I could do it over again, to plan and pay for everything. A lot of these vendors are doing monthly payment plans. I know we do for photo and video. A lot of photographers do it. I'm sure some venues do it. DJs, I'm not sure about caterers, but there's a lot of ways you can kind of stretch your budget and kind of work it into paychecks if you're paying it, like out of your paychecks every week, so to speak, if you haven't like saved up a ton of money for your wedding. Um, and I think that planning your timeline accordingly, so that you have time to plan, enjoy your engagement, but also time to pay for everything is so important.
I know you touched that on off seasons, it's typically a little bit cheaper. And I've even seen some venues where if you get married on a Monday through Thursday, it's cheaper than on a Friday through Sunday. So, I mean, really, you can make a wedding budget friendly. Like, it is possible. You just have to figure out the best way to do that.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing for us was, the more people you invite, the more expensive it is.
Mhm.
And the hardest thing was shaving down the guest list. And we still had about 80 guests, but
I
if
don't
it
even like
were
80 people.
if it were up to me, it would have been like 140.
Jesus.
Yeah.
How do you like that many people?
And that was a lot of the people that, couldn't come into town. So that kind of narrowed it down as well, but yeah, I wanted to invite a lot more friends, and, like, acquaintances, so to speak, but our general rule of thumb that we used that really helped, and I heard this from a wedding planner, is if you wouldn't take them out to dinner and pay for their dinner, then don't invite them to your wedding, and
Wow.
that was a good one because you're essentially paying for their dinner,
Oh,
right? You're
definitely.
paying 30, 40, $50
A
a
plate.
plate, yeah.
A plate. So, you've been through this whole wedding ordeal. How did you kind of stop people from, like, giving those opinions that you don't really care about? Those unsolicited advice, those.
I didn't.
Like, for me, like, I'm not in that stage of my life, but, like, I wouldn't stand for it. Like, I don't want your advice or your opinion. It's not your day. Like, it's
Yeah.
our day at the end of all
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm also a very big personality.
Yeah, it was really difficult. Some of my family had opinions on how they wanted the wedding ceremony to go a week before the wedding. It's like we've planned it all. Like it's gonna happen
Been
pretty
in the
soon.
works. Like,
Yeah, so that was really stressful. Because it was a budget wedding, we were trying to cut a lot of corners. It's unavoidable. And there were just things that people were like, well, my mom, she's a little fancy. She's like, "Are you really gonna let ladies lift their legs over a picnic table at a park? You need to rent tables and chairs." I'm like, "Well, that's nice. You gonna pay for them?"
thanks,
You know
mom.
what I mean? So it's really difficult. I did ask a bride group recently, like, "What do you wish you knew before you started planning your wedding?" And one of the biggest comments was, I wish that I knew that my family had so many opinions and, like, so many people just, and they weren't always pleasant. They weren't always helpful. And I think that's what surprises people the most is you really don't realize. I also hear this happens a lot when you have a baby. Like how many people have opinions on how you should be raising your child. I haven't crossed that bridge yet,
Thank
but
God.
I'm sure we'll get there at some point and I'll
No!
I'll find out all about
No!
it. But you
Just kidding, I'm just kidding.
No, but it is frustrating, and the best advice I can give you is, I remember being really frustrated that, like, a bunch of people didn't show up or that, my dad wasn't excited as I wanted him to be, or my mother-in-law was driving me nuts or whatever, fill in the blank. Hopefully none of these people watch the podcast. Love ya.
Surprise!
But, it's, at the end of the day, it was about me and Joe. It
Mhm.
was about me and Joe getting married and having the best day of our lives. And that's what we were spending the money on. And yes, we wanted people to be comfortable and be happy and, like, attend our wedding and celebrate with us. But, like, at the end of the day, it was our wedding, and those people are not going to remember it the way that we remember it, and they're not going
100%.
to look back on it as fondly as we look back on it. And
Mhm.
whatever, as long as he was happy and I was happy, that's all that mattered. And I guess that's the only advice I can give you is, like, just enjoy your engagement because hopefully, God willing and the creek don't rise, it's the only one you'll have. And, it's the only one that you'll be able to stop and enjoy. So, take your
Yeah.
time. That's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, I love that.
I think that pretty much wraps it up for surviving this lovely
Engagement
season.
season.
Yeah, and take your Thermaflu or your Theraflu.
Anything.
Yeah, take your
Take your medicine, don't get sick.
take your vitamin C. Don't be us.
Hey, I've been drinking orange juice, it's not helping.
And put your snow tires on.
Whoops, haven't done that
Don't
either.
end up in a ditch.
Whoops.
But thanks so much for joining us, guys. As always, comment and leave any questions or topic requests below in the comment section. And
We'd love to make a whole video about it.
yes, and subscribe.
Bye.